Welcome everyone to the closed session portion of the city council meeting. I'm calling this meeting to order. The time is now 5:30 p.m. Madam Clerk, can you please take roll?
Councilmember Gama,
Here.
Councilmember Hernandez.
Here.
Councilmember McQueen LaShawn,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Perez.
Here.
And Mayor Martinez.
Present. We will now hear public comments. Zoom participants, please use the raise your hand feature if you have any comments. Speakers will have 3 minutes to provide comments. Madam Clerk, does anybody have a public comment tonight?
No public comments for closed session.
Mr. City Attorney, can you please read the closed session item into the record?
Absolutely, Mayor Martinez. There are two closed session agenda items tonight. The first is public employee appointment pursuant to Government Code Section 54957 and 54954.5 subdivision E regarding the city manager. The second agenda item is conference with labor negotiators pursuant to Government Code Section 54957.6. The agency designated representatives are Charles Peretz and myself. The unrepresented employee position is city manager.
Okay. Do any council members have any conflicts to disclose for the listed closed session agenda items? Okay. Council will recess to closed session. The time is now 5:31 p.m. We'll be back at 6:30. Thank you. All right, welcome everyone to the City Council regular meeting. I'm calling this meeting to order. The time is now 6:30 p.m. Please stand and join me for the flag salute. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, Madam Clerk, can you please take roll?
Councilmember Gama,
Here.
Councilmember Hernandez,
Here.
Councilmember McQueen LaJean,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Perez,
Here.
and Mayor Martinez.
Present. All right, tonight in a really beautiful filled room, we're gonna have Councilmember Gama do the inspiration.
I'm so excited today. We have artwork. It's surrounded by artwork. Some of that artwork is from you, right? All right. So my inspiration tonight is E.O. Green and Haydock. Drama department. Last week was a tough week for E.O. Green. E.O. Green was in the news, not the kind of news that schools want, yet that news served as a reminder of the past and also that our little angel and Larry King is speaking to us all. There is no place for hate or violence in our schools. What can we do? We as a city council can encourage the youth of our community to get involved, to get in drama. And so this past Friday night, I attended the Beauty and the Beast production at Oxnard Community College. And I want to show you some photos of this. And it was a professionally done production. There is talent in this room, council members, that you have no idea unless you get to see the production. So I'm going to show you some pictures, and the pictures are not going to do justice to the real event. So there he is, the Beast. Where is he? And there's Gascon. Did I say it right? And it was, I'll tell you, there was dance, there was song, they were mic'd up, they were singing, and they had accents. The candle's over here, and she's from France. I don't know if you know the story of Beauty and the Beast, but it really is a beautiful story. And it is a story of our community. We have a lot of beauty in our community, and we battle with demons, and that's where we come in. Like and I know the mayor has made it a point to support the youth of our community. And when we see the youth in our community behaving like this, performing like this, it's amazing. It's so amazing. And there's our candle from France. Yeah, and it just makes me so happy to be a part of our community and to see the kids of our community performing at such a level that it's unbelievable, the level that you performed at, and I'm ecstatic to know that that came from our community. Oh, poor guy. So you should be proud of yourself, but I know that you had 2 more productions the following day, and I hope they went well. And we're gonna finish with a little video clip, and I hope it works so that everybody could just get a little bit of a feel of what they missed. So I'd like to introduce the teacher and director of E.O. Green and Haydock's drama department, Miss Billy. Thank you so much for coming, and if you'd like to say a few words, that would be great.
Yes. Thank you for having us. My name is Billy Xiphone. I'm the theater teacher at both Green and Blackstock Junior High Schools. And I'm so honored and privileged to thank you for having us here. It's been a blast being the teacher of these amazing, talented students. And I'm so glad that Councilmember Gama was able to see it. We have two more, our Blackstock group will be performing in 2 weeks, so we would love to extend the invitation to you all, and I do have flyers, so I'll give them out to you. But I'm just so proud of our community. It's made up of our students, parents, teachers, community volunteers that make it all happen. It's a big show, and a lot of people are involved, and we're just so proud of our students and thankful for everybody who has been involved. So and I just want to say thank you for acknowledging all of our hard work. Appreciate it. And maybe you would like to hear from some of the students. They have a lot to say if you want to do any of
How
our...
about the beast?
Do any students, you want to share? Does anybody else want to share it?
Give us your voice.
The beast.
The beast voice.
Well, I'm the beast.
And then we have the candle. Where's our candle? Come on, tell us.
Do you want to share anything? Any students here? Say anything? Your experience, what you've loved about theater?
So I just want to let you know, 2 years ago, EO Green came out to do a beach cleanup, and I met a few of these students, and we've kept in touch, and they come visit me every now and then. And then I had no idea of the talent that these students possessed, and to see it on Friday night was just such a pleasure. So, anyways, anyone else would like to say anything? Come on.
Now's your chance.
Now's your chance. Tell
Don't
us
be
what
shy.
time it
We
is.
know you're not shy.
You want to talk, huh?
Just make sure you go up to the mic, please. Yeah.
Introduce yourself, your name, your grade, your...
Hello, my name's Aiden Paolini. I'm in 7th grade, and I was the beast. It was really fun. I really love acting because it's a way to just it's fun, and it's a way to let all your creative juices out into a character and really explore yourself and who you want to be and what you want to do through acting. It's great.
Okay, all the characters were my favorite, but this is one of my favorite characters. Give us your voice.
Bonjour.
She was the candle. Right?
Yeah.
Tell us about your experience.
Okay. My name is River Starberg. I'm in 7th grade, and what else? Oh yeah, my character. I'm Lumiere, I think. I really like theater. Last year I really wanted to be in theater, but I wasn't able to because I had to walk home with my weirdo brother. I'm not trying to diss my brother, it's just he's very odd. Okay. Ms. Diaphone is the most beautiful teacher in the whole world, and I am so thankful that she was able to teach this year.
Hi, my name is Marily Ramos. I'm in 8th grade, and I play Belle for EO Green. It was such a good experience to be in theater and to have Ms. iPhone as our theater teacher. She's really just amazing for this. And I love theater because it lets you express yourself and be more of yourself than you can be in regular life and stuff. And then plus you meet a lot of friends here, and they are the ones that never fail you to me, honestly. And yeah, that was basically it.
Thank you. This is my most favorite. Yes, who else? Come on. This is another favorite. Come on.
I'm a little too short for this,
No,
guys.
you're not.
Sorry, guys.
We can move. Who was your character?
Oh, my name is Aaliyah Lopez. I played LeFou, and I'm in 6th grade. Yeah.
What do you like about playing
Um.
LeFou? Because you're always falling around and
Oh yeah, about that. I just think that it was a fun experience. I appreciate that Miss Iphone it didn't want to teach sixth grade anymore to devote her life to theater. So
All
I
right.
appreciate that. And now we spend every moment, waking moment with her.
So, all right.
That's it.
Well, thank you all for coming. You really are an inspiration to all of us, and keep doing good. Love your parents, love your teachers, do good in school, and let's make our community better. And I think we're doing that with your beautiful artwork, and the arts are the way to do it. And I really appreciate you coming here and letting me talk. And I know we're going long, but we love you all, and thank you so much. Yes. Just like it's hard to do a play, right? You have to work at it. And yeah, so all of us work very hard to be here. And, you know, you got to put a lot of work in, and then hopefully at the end of the day, we'll deliver a great city, and that's getting better and better and better. And that's what everyone on our dais wants to do. And we appreciate being engaged with the youth of our community. And that's what this inspiration is all about. So thank you all. Really appreciate you coming out. Yeah? Okay. That is a 3-minute clock. So if you ever want to come and participate in the city council business, you could come and you could fill out a speaker card, and you'll get 3 minutes, and they'll start the clock, and you can tell us whatever you want to tell us. If you have a need you want us to fulfill, I strongly encourage you, come here, use some of those oratory skills that you're developing, and tell us what we need to do to make you happy.
Real quick, thank you, Councilmember Gama, for this interesting and unique inspiration. I don't know if it's too much to ask if we have like the kids come up and take a photo, like all of us together.
3 minutes.
Yeah. You want to go down?
Yes.
Yeah? Yeah.
One, two, and three.
Georgiana, can you get a video? Like a
Huh?
3-second video like this?
A 3-second video?
Yeah.
Or a panorama. Thank you.
It's nice meeting you. I'm Mayor Vlog. And then I actually, I graduated from Yale Green. Yeah, I went to Yale Green too. Yeah. Yeah, it was pretty cool. Sí, sí, sí la reconozco. Mucho gusto verla otra vez. Gracias. Dios quiera que nos veamos pronto. Por supuesto, yo se la saludo. Hi. Sí, en la playa. Bien, ¿van a tener otra presentación? Ay. Okay. Pues para la otra. I'm gonna use that tonight. I'm gonna try. A ver cómo, no sé cómo nos conectamos. ¿Me puede mandar un mensaje correo electrónico de la ciudad? ¿Me puede encontrar?
Sounds like my dad. He's from New York. He has an art and everything. I had this idea.
¿Sí me lo manda? Okay.
New York.
Hi.
That's good.
All right, this is definitely really cool.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor.
Which one? The koi fish?
Oh, I love that one. That's one of my favorite ones.
Yeah, good job. Bye.
Mayor and Mr. Council member people and Mrs. I don't know, some things.
Take a bow.
Mr. City Attorney, can you please provide the closed session report?
Of course I can, Mayor Martinez. There was no reportable action taken in closed session tonight.
Okay. And then we will now hear public comments not pertaining to any items on the agenda. Zoom participants, please use the raise your hand feature if you'd like to comment. Commenters will have 3 minutes to provide comments. This process will be the same for comments pertaining to each agenda item. Madam Clerk, do we have any public comments tonight?
Yes, I've received one in-person public comment, and then I'll have a written public comment. So if Jessica Baca can come forward.
Yes.
Hello.
Hi.
Good evening, City Council members. My name is Jessica Baca, and I am the Via Seville HOA president. Via Seville is located at around the 200 block of Channel Islands Boulevard. I'm here tonight to represent and to voice the concerns of the many residents of the Via Seville HOA. There have been many traffic collisions that have occurred at the intersection of Channel Islands Boulevard and Bulker Drive. In fact, our HOA and concerned residents have signed informal petitions that they'd like for me to provide to you, again, they're informal, of their concerns regarding the traffic safety on Channel Islands Boulevard. If you recall, I recently sent you all an email voicing our concerns of the many Via Seville residents. As a result, I obtained a study that was conducted by TKM Engineering during the COVID-19 pandemic. The study indicated that the Via Seville residents, what the Via Seville residents and many homeowners in the area already know, which is that the significant number of traffic collisions occur at Bulker Drive and Channel Islands Boulevard. That's not the only place they occur, but that's primarily where they occur. The study by TKM recommended some alternatives and interventions that to the residents seem irrelevant. I'm here tonight to plead to the City of Port Hueneme for effective traffic safety measures along Channel Islands Boulevard, specifically at Bulker Drive. Most recently, on April 14th, 2023, the Via Seville property incurred significant damage as a result of an alleged uninsured driver who struck our building, narrowly missing the living area of a resident sitting in her living room. She was only feet away from where the vehicle smashed into our building. In assessing the damage and walking through the area where the vehicle traveled, the Via Seville HOA would like to ask the City of Port Hueneme to install one K-rail at the cutout to curtail this type of incident from occurring in the future. On our end, the Via Seville HOA, in order to keep our residents safe along this long, unregulated area of Channel Islands Boulevard, will now need to look at the installation of bollards or some other expensive measures to keep our residents safe. The south side of Channel Islands Boulevard has a guardrail installed to keep collisions off of the Naval Base property. However, the residents on the north side of Channel Islands Boulevard, we are left to fend for ourselves. The Via Seville Homeowners Association is asking for the City of Port Hueneme for the following measures to keep our residents safe. A traffic signal at Lido Boulevard to curtail traffic from backing up at Patterson Road. a K-rail at the outset of the driveway at Via Seville off of Channel Islands Boulevard to prevent the type of collision that occurred on April 14th from occurring again. A regular speed enforcement by the Port Hueneme Police Department. A keep clear designation at the intersection of Channel Islands Boulevard at Bulker Drive. And reduce speed on Channel Islands Boulevard from 45 to 35 miles per hour. Thank you so much for your time and hearing my concerns. If you have any questions, I'm here. I'll be here the rest of the evening.
Thank you. And then there was one written public comment.
Yes, we have one written public comment from Ricardo Holden. It's regarding agenda item 6, which is on the consent calendar. It would be nice if there was some vetting or requirements of nonprofits before they are eligible to qualify for the 1% community benefit contributions from cannabis. A fly-by-night nonprofit was able to obtain community benefit contributions from cannabis funds in the amount of $14,000. The nonprofit Save Hueneme Beach only existed briefly and provided no service to our community. Save Hueneme Beach's only fundraising came from the obligatory 1% community benefit contributions from cannabis, according to their filling with the city. This nonprofit, if you recall, was created to pursue a name change in the city, although the name change had previously failed and was unpopular in our community. The organizer of the nonprofit presented invalid polls and data to suggest that the name change was wanted by our community, possibly presenting this flawed data to obtain the contributions. This nonprofit paid Locally Maps, a business operated by our now mayor, $7,000 to make a few basic videos that were posted on social media and YouTube. These videos were amateur and hardly justified being paid $7,000 for their creation. Save Hueneme Beach hadn't even existed for more than a few months, had a name that was misleading since nothing was being saved, and the nonprofit has since removed their website and deleted the videos that were posted on YouTube. I believe that because a city consultant whom had worked with the dispensaries to obtain licensing and our now mayor were operating the nonprofit, the dispensaries were compelled to donate to Save Hueneme Beach. Because no other donors were listed, it appears that Save Hueneme Beach solely took advantage of the obligatory benefit contributions. In the end, the name change failed, and the only people who benefited from the $14,000 in donations are our now mayor's business and Steve Kinney, a city consultant. Not only was this a poor decision, but it stinks of conflict of interest, as our now mayor voted to approve Steve Kinney's contract without mentioning being paid, and no way should a city consultant be paying off city council members. $14,000 goes a long way had that money been donated to their organizations. I believe our community could have actually benefited. For instance, $14,000 could have purchased a food vending trailer that could have been used by sports programs within our city to help them raise additional funds. What is to stop anyone, especially a city representative, from creating a fly-by-night nonprofit, collecting donations, then folding within months? Maybe a good requirement would be that in order to qualify as a community benefit recipient, the organization must have been in establishment for over 1 year. Another requirement might be that the nonprofit must have show additions, sources of fundraising other than just the community benefit contributions from cannabis. It appears as if Save Hueneme Beach bamboozled the community benefits contributions for their own personal agendas and their own business profits. That concludes public comment.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Clerk. May I have a motion and a second to approve the agenda?
Move to approve? Second.
Okay, Madam Clerk, can we please take a roll?
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously.
Okay, next. Do any members of council have any conflicts of interest to disclose for any item on the agenda?
Thank you, Mayor. A question for the city attorney. As a business owner in Port Hueneme, not really sure if I need to declare conflict of interest for number 11 on the agenda.
Yeah, I've looked into this a little bit, and essentially there's a four-pronged test under the Political Reform Act as to whether or not something is a disqualifying conflict of interest. One is whether or not it's a foreseeable benefit or detriment. The second is whether or not that benefit or detriment is material. The third is whether or not that affects the public generally. And the fourth is whether or not legal participation is required. In analyzing these, typically a personal financial benefit of $500 or more, considering that this item is not a direct benefit to your particular business or anyone's particular business, it could be classified as an indirect benefit. It's unclear to me whether or not the business license fees that the individual businesses could avail themselves of would be in excess of $500. I'm informed that they are probably and most likely not. That being said, it would not meet the materiality requirement under the FPPC regulations. In addition, the public generally exception, step 3 of the 4-part test, discusses significant population segments, which are defined under FPPC regulations as 25% of businesses or nonprofits. Considering the proposed resolution or the proposed item would affect more than 25% of all businesses located within the city of Port Hueneme, it would be my professional opinion that this affects the public generally, or at least a significant segment of the population, such that it does not meet the requirements for disqualifying conflict of interest. That being said, I am obligated to inform you that reliance on advice of counsel when it comes to Political Reform Act questions will not be a defense to an FPPC enforcement action.
Great, thank you. I think I'll just recuse myself.
Can I make a comment? I think there's 4 of us who have some kind of business interest, and it seems to me that this provision applies to those businesses that have not yet submitted an applications for license. And I don't know if that's true. I keep my license up to date, so, and I would not accept the rebate. So perhaps that can be better defined by our city manager and economic development author.
Sure. Yes, thank you. And that is one option, is that you don't have to accept the rebates. Now, it does affect actually, or would affect all businesses here in the city, those who have licenses. And so whether they're existing or new, the second part of this, when we discuss this item later, would be that the only businesses that would be affected at that point would be the ones that were truly joining the Chamber of Commerce that is proposed. Assuming we ever even get that far. So it's all very questionable, but again, possibly to be on the safe side as business owners yourselves, not to accept any of the rebates or whatnot.
Thank you.
So could we have a little more discussion on this, or?
No, we'll have an opportunity to.
Yeah, it's not consent.
Okay, so we'll just move on.
All right. So let's move on to the first presentation, Public Works Week Proclamation, Interim Public Works Director, Mark Watkins.
Thank you, Mayor Martinez, members of the City Council, and thank you for recognizing National Public Works Week, celebrated this year from May 21st to May 27th, 2023. This is the 63rd anniversary of National Public Works Week. The theme this year is Connecting the World. And this theme represents the infrastructure and services that connect modern society and create a community. National Public Works Week is celebrated across the United States and Canada and literally tens of thousands of cities and counties. The men and women of the Public Works Department are maintenance workers, engineers, technicians, administrative professionals, landscapers, equipment operators, inspectors, utility workers, and many others. And we're the foundation of a city, and we provide our services 24/7, 365. We work quietly and often behind the scenes to provide water, wastewater, streets, landscaping, environmental services, engineering, graffiti removal, fleet services, storm drains, traffic signals, signing, striping, capital projects, solid waste, recycling, and many others. We want to thank the council for their leadership in providing an opportunity for us to be here and for the support that they show in creating an environment for us to be able to deliver these services, and for joining us in celebrating National Public Works Week for 2023. And so with that, the proclamation reads, whereas public works professionals focus on infrastructure, facilities, emergency management, and services that are of vital importance to a sustainable and resilient community and the public health and high quality of life and well-being of the people of the city of Port Hueneme. And these infrastructure services could not be provided without the dedicated efforts of public works professionals who are federally mandated first responders, engineers, managers, employees at all levels of government and the private sector, and who are responsible for rebuilding, improving, and protecting our nation's infrastructure, transportation, water supply, water treatment, and solid waste systems. Now, therefore, this year we mark the 63rd Annual National Public Works Week, sponsored by the American Public Works Association, and the City Council of Port Hueneme do hereby designate the week of May 21st through 27th as National Public Works Week. Thank you.
And next, would you like to say something, Councilmember Hernandez?
Thank you, Mr. Watkins, for the acknowledgement of our Public Works personnel and department. You guys are foundational to the quality of life that we have here in Port Hueneme. You support our infrastructure, our lifelines, safety measures out on our streets. And I've always acknowledged Public Works members as our first responders, because usually you're the ones that get the first call. Police might get the first call, and then the next call is you, and you're out there day or night. So I just want to say that you're very much appreciated. All the people who work for Public Works, very much appreciated. You're some of the unsung heroes, I think, in our city. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
I concur.
All right, let's move on to our second presentation, Peace Officers Memorial Day and National Police Week Proclamation, presented by Interim Police Chief Robert Alverson.
Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, members of City Council, members of the public, members of the staff. I have a proclamation tonight recognizing Peace Officers Memorial Day and National Police Week 2023. Unfortunately, we did lose a Riverside County Sheriff's deputy on Friday who died in the line of duty during a traffic collision out in the city of Hemet. Whereas the Congress and President of the United States have designated May 15th, 2023 as National Peace Officers Memorial Day in the week in which it falls as Police Week, and whereas there are approximately 900,000 law enforcement officers serving in communities across the United States, including the dedicated members of the Port Hueneme Police Department, and whereas the members of the Port Hueneme Police Department recognize their duty to serve the people by safeguarding life and property, by protecting them against violence or disorder, and by protecting the innocent against deception and the weak against oppression or intimidation, and whereas it is proper that we express our gratitude for the dedicated service and courageous deeds of the men and women of the Port Hueneme Police Department and for the contributions they have made to the security and well-being of all people in our community. And whereas more than 20,000 law enforcement officers in the United States have made the ultimate sacrifice and have been killed in the line of duty, including 28 sworn officers in the county of Ventura. And whereas the names of these dedicated public servants are engraved on the walls of the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial in Washington, D.C. And whereas May 15th, 2023 is designated as National Peace Officers Memorial Day in honor of the service and sacrifice of all officers killed in the line of duty and their families. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that the City Council of the City of Port Hueneme formally designate May 14th to May 20th, 2023 as Police Week, and May 15th, 2023 as Peace Officers Memorial Day in the City of Port Hueneme, and publicly salute the services of law enforcement officers in our community and in the communities across the nation. Thank you.
And I have these two certificates of recognition. I'm assuming it's for this presentation. So Police Officer Anthony Martinez and is that the next one?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay,
Actually,
you're
so
right.
I have two additional quick presentations. So the first one will be recognizing our Dispatcher of the Year, and the second one will be recognizing the officer who received the Mothers Against Drunk Driving MAD Award. So if I can have Officer Anthony Martinez and Public Safety Dispatcher Jennifer Floriana come up. So we'll go ahead and start with the Dispatcher of the Year. So please join me in recognizing Public Safety Dispatcher Jennifer Floriano as our Dispatcher of the Year for 2022. Jennifer's been with the Port Hueneme Police Department since February of 2020, and within that time, she has notably been a positive contribution to the dispatch team. She began her dispatching career in 1990 for the Carpinteria Police Department before it was part of the Santa Barbara County Sheriff's Department. Then spent 8 years at Ventura Police Department, then on to Oxnard Police Department for 13 years, where she was a supervisor. Jennifer moved out of state and worked for Portsmouth PD, Virginia Beach PD, and Suffolk PD. She moved back to California in 2019 and began working as a dispatcher for the Port Hueneme Police Department in 2020. Throughout her career, Jennifer has received numerous commendations for incidents involving vehicle and foot pursuits, all the way to officer-involved shootings. Jennifer has also worked 2 999 incidents, which is a radio code for an officer needs help and is probably one of the worst things that a dispatcher can hear come over the radio. She worked one of those for Ventura Police Department and one for Oxnard Police Department. She was also the supervisor and dispatcher on duty for the E.O. Green school shooting. Jennifer also has experience dispatching for fire and has done CPR many times with a few saves. She's a trainer for the Port Hueneme Police Department, and her knowledge and years of experience have been very effective with our trainees. She is also the unit decorator, so to speak. During any holiday or special event, you will likely see the holiday decorations in the dispatch center, along with festive baked goods. Please join me in honoring Dispatcher Jennifer Floriano as Port Hueneme Police Department's Dispatcher of the Year. And I'll go ahead and do the presentation for Officer Martinez too before we bring the certificates down. So tonight I would also like to recognize Officer Anthony Martinez for receiving the 2022 Mothers Against Drunk Driving Top Arresting Officer Award for the Port Hueneme Police Department, which was presented to him on May 11th at the MAD Tri-Counties Law Enforcement and Prosecutor Recognition Awards Luncheon in Camarillo. Officer Martinez previously worked for the Montebello Police Department and was hired by the Port Hueneme Police Department in April of 2021. Even before being released from his field training program, he had already attended DUI detection and standardized field sobriety test training with the Ventura CHP office. He also recently completed traffic collision investigation through the San Diego County Sheriff's Department. For those who are unaware, DUI investigations are very labor intensive, and a change in the law several years ago mandates that an officer actually obtain a search warrant in order to draw blood from an uncooperative arrestee. This, coupled with the fact that California law imposes very stiff penalties for DUI convictions, means that more so than many other offenses, DUIs are likely to be litigated through the trial process. As such, this area of law enforcement has become much more specialized than it was when I started my career back in 1997. I'm proud to say that Officer Martinez has risen to that challenge and is ensuring that the roads of Port Hueneme are safe for all of us. Please join me in saying congratulations and thank you for a job well done.
I'll go take these two right now.
So we're gonna take a couple of pictures. Yes,
While Mayor Martinez is coming down, I just want to say thank you to Officer Martinez and Ms. Floriano for your dedication and your experience. When I call 911 and Jennifer answers, I know that I'm going to be in good hands. So thank you for your service. You have incredible experience, and that should be, it's just remarkable. And we're happy to have you here because of that. And thank you, Mr. Martinez, as well. And congratulations on your new baby. I haven't seen it.
I'll go ahead and go next. So dispatchers are unsung heroes. They don't often get recognition as they should, which is why I thought it was important to have them as my inspiration. So I appreciate everything that our dispatchers do. And for Officer Martinez, what you do is also equally important, or more so, keeping our streets safe. And if there's anything that we could do to help better equip you to be able to do your job better, is there anything that you would recommend or request that we get? It's our job to make sure that you are well equipped and you have everything that you need and that we provide whatever it is.
You want to come over to the microphone?
Because right now I feel like we're well equipped. Definitely feel the support from the mayor, council members, and the people of the community. You know, I feel like we're developing and progressing in the right direction. And as of right now, I wouldn't add anything. So,
Thank you.
yes, ma'am.
Yeah, thank you all for your service. As you saw tonight, the future of our community is in our youth. And being surrounded by this artwork and being surrounded by you wonderful police officers really brings home as to what it is that we're trying to overcome in this community. You know, we were reminded about violence in our schools just last week, and it just, I'm so thankful that people like you are willing to serve, because it's a tough job. And, but we're working, we're doing better, and I certainly appreciate the amount of time that Hueneme PD expends with the youth of our community, and I really, really thank you for doing that. And I know it's making a big positive difference, and there's always more work to be done, but thank you all so much.
Ditto. No. I'd just like to say thank you so much for your service. I know you hear that a lot. Thank you for your service, but really, as far as a dispatcher is concerned, the skill set to be able to hear from the people, be able to communicate to the officers so that the officers can get there and take care of the community is very, very important. So thank you for your service. And I'd also like to say it is very nice to see the support that you all have tonight in receiving recognition, to have your other officers here. So it's really good to see you all together. And it just shows us that you are one team working together for this community. So thank you so much.
Yes, thank you. We will now consider items on the consent calendar, which will be enacted in one motion unless a council member has a request to remove an item for discussion. May I have a motion and a second to approve our consent calendar?
Mayor, I'd like to pull, my binder's a little disorganized, maybe it's me, but I like to pull the 1%, number 6, item 6, and I think yes, and 8. Where is my thing?
So you would like to pull item number 6, 1% community benefit contributions from cannabis, and item number 8, status update on city council requests?
I'll second that motion.
Thank you.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve the other items? So,
I'll move to approve the remainder of the items, aside from item 6 and 8.
I'll second.
okay. Let's go ahead and take a vote on the other items first, Madam Clerk.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously.
All right, so let's go ahead and talk about item number 6, 1% community benefit contributions from cannabis.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting that this is the first time we've ever been updated, and to be updated for 4 years on a consent calendar, I just don't feel comfortable with that. And can we outline the process? Do we need to have a policy to better manage this 1% community benefit fund? You know, you go through and you look at some of the amounts, you know, they never come before the council. So I'm just wondering how these expenditures were occurring. Like, what's the process? Is there a process?
Or who approves them?
This is Lupe. If I may, I believe Chief Salinas had presented to council in the past because before his departure, he was managing, tracking all of the contributions from the cannabis businesses. And if I may speak to the process now that he's no longer with the city, finance has taken over that process, and we're obtaining support documentation from all the businesses for the 1%. So we send out a letter at the beginning of a year, of the calendar year, and request for the businesses to provide us with the supporting documentation for the contribution. So part of the contribution summary that is in front of you is a combination of both efforts, what Chief Salinas had gathered from the inception of the opening of the businesses, and then what finance has gathered since his departure.
Yeah, so
That helps.
the question I have, is a process a policy? And should we not develop a policy that's approved by the council with some guidelines for management? Because, you know, we're reviewing $1.5 million in expenditures that go back over 4 years.
My understanding, and perhaps Tony can jump in, is that the development agreements require 1% of the community benefit to be paid by the cannabis business directly to their charity of choice. There is no involvement in council. I don't know why that took place before I was here. I don't know why that was there. I can speculate that the reason for not having council involvement is probably First Amendment implications with respect to government speech. This way, there are no speech implications for a government as to who gets funded and who doesn't. And the matter is left with the cannabis dispensary, who also pays anywhere from 3 to 5% of their gross revenues to the city in the form of development agreement fees.
Well, again, I just think it's a little bit concerning, and no disrespect to our former police chief, but, you know, the police chief managing, and I don't know, it just seems like there's a little bit of a conflict there. But can we have staff take a look at this? And is there a way to make it better? Can we look at lessons learned and try to improve I would like to call it a policy, not necessarily a process, but, and then the other complicating factor is it's tied up in the use agreements that we have with, right?
Development agreements.
Development agreements.
Right, because these are development agreements and they are statutory development agreements, an ordinance was passed by the council authorizing these, it would be very difficult, if not impossible, to go back and change them.
So we can't change it.
Not without additional consideration, no.
Well, at least not change anything in the past, but what about the future?
It's possible it would be something that Tony and I would need to discuss.
Councilmember Hernandez?
Yeah. There is a statement in here that says that the 1% of revenues goes to recognize charitable and nonprofit organizations that serve the Port Hueneme community. And so I'm wondering if, rather than try to change the ordinance, because I'm not comfortable taking that authority away from our cannabis businesses, but maybe we can better define what that means, what it means to serve the Port Hueneme community. As I went through the list, some of these organizations, I mean, it'd be a stretch to say that they serve the Port Hueneme community there, but you know, we don't know. It's really hard to say that they don't. But perhaps there's some language that we can add in there that makes it a little bit more definitive. And maybe staff could take a look at that.
I think we could take a look at refining what we consider a charitable organization that benefits the city of Port Hueneme. That might be one way to go, have a list of approved nonprofits. That would definitely be something that Mr. Stewart and I would have to really drill down on because of the implications for First Amendment.
All right. And so the other thing is that sometimes city council has an idea of how these revenues could be used. So is there a process for city council members to communicate with the cannabis businesses in maybe recommending that they contribute? Because there's no process for us to really come forward and say, hey, you know, Boys and Girls Club is doing this fundraiser. Is there a way that we can direct funding to that organization? I know that the behested requests fall upon us if we exceed $5,000 in behested request.
It can be problematic under the Political Reform Act as well,
Yes.
and expose the council to ethical violations.
Right.
The other issue is One, the development agreement vests the responsibility and the choice with the cannabis entity, not the council. Changing that could be a breach of the development agreement.
Yeah, and I don't suggest that at all, but maybe there's just maybe a priority list we can give them in the beginning of the year, saying these are our,
It's possible as long as there are no repercussions. I mean, the counter argument from any cannabis dispensary is that they already give you 5% of their gross revenues. Council's free to make whatever decisions they want with that money. The 1% was part of the development agreement for the cannabis industry to donate for the betterment in any manner they see fit. The minute council gets involved and starts directing behested payments and whatnot, you run into arguments of compelled speech.
Yeah. I understand Oxnard is doing it that way, that they are going to weigh in on that 1%. So that'll be interesting to see how that works for them. Okay, thank you.
I'm sorry, would it be possible to organize the cannabis dispensaries and have a forum to discuss this? I'm not trying to be, super critical, but when I see something here like Community Vibes Garage, 47,500. What is that? Like, do we have, is it within our purview to get more in documentation on that? I mean,
It's a local automotive, nonprofit automotive training program. I think it's based in Oxnard.
okay, see, I didn't know.
I looked it up.
Good for you. So I don't know, it just seems like we don't want to direct, but we certainly, and obviously we have encouraged supporting the youth of our community, and that is reflected in each and every year, and I think that's great, but when we start seeing things that we don't quite recognize, like Christmas toy donation, I mean, no brainer, right? But I think some of the ones that, are kind of on the margins, I don't know, maybe there's a better way for us to advocate, if not audit or manage the process. And just one other thing is that, we really didn't have a process, from what I understand.
Well, the development agreements don't contemplate one.
But if you have a requirement to invest 1% into community, you have to audit it, right? How do you?
That would be operational. I don't know how it was audited in the past. I think Chief Salinas was provided the documentation as to which, what cannabis dispensaries provided what amounts and how that equated up to 1%. I wouldn't have that information.
Correct. Now, at this point, though, as Mrs. Cerro just mentioned, going forward with finance having the process under their wing now, we are requiring monthly documentation, not only of their the revenues and whatnot to support the 5%, but also the 1%, as well as where it's being spent. And then when we get to year end, we will be auditing that at this point. So moving forward, we do have that process. And if there are questions, we'll go ahead and work with the dispensaries with regard to those questionable donations.
Okay, and then I just noticed that there was a hand raised. We probably should have asked if there were any public comments first. Or is that the process?
That's the only one I have besides the written comment that was heard earlier.
Okay, we can give Miss Sylvia some time.
Ms. Schnapp, if you'd like to go ahead and provide your comments now, you can.
Great, thank you. So, hello, council members, Mayor Martinez and city staff, Sylvia Schnapp. Just want to weigh in on this item here. When the development agreements were first put together, the 1% was where the organization, the cannabis organizations, could choose from nonprofits that they wanted to support, they themselves. And they were the ones to vet out the organizations that approached them. And it was where 1% of their revenues needed to be provided to nonprofits that would benefit the community of Port Hueneme. So there weren't any restrictions on who they could possibly give to. There wasn't a list provided to them. It was really where they needed to really be involved in our community. And that was one way of making sure that contributions would then benefit our residents and local organizations. I just wanted to weigh in to let you all know. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Snupp. Are there any more comments?
I just have a
Councilmember
couple of
Martha McQueen?
questions, if you don't mind.
Yes.
So a couple of things. Wanted to ask Ms. Acero, in the documentation that you're currently collecting, is there an area for the donator to write a quick blurb about what the benefit to Port Hueneme?
There is not specific, it's not specifically asking for the benefit. There is an area with the monthly grocery receipts, where they include the 1% donation if they donated for that month. And then at the end of the calendar year, we're sending out a letter and we're requesting a summary and supporting documentation for all of the donations. But we can definitely include that on the monthly letter or reporting form that we have.
Okay, that would be great. And the other question is, have we ever provided the cannabis dispensaries a list of, hey, these are some organizations that would support Port Hueneme? Have we ever provided them, or can we provide them something like that?
We haven't given them, again, a formal list because
Right.
of the reasons our city attorney mentioned earlier. But when we do sit down and meet with them,
Right.
myself or Chief Salinas in the past, if they ask questions, we will give them suggestions. For instance, when we had our meeting with the library, a couple of weeks ago, I said, would they accept donations? And they said yes. So that's another resource that we let them know about now. So as the resources come up, we give those suggestions out.
Okay, great, thank you. Because I think I heard Ms. Schnapp say that or we all would donate to only those that we know about, right? If we don't know about you, then we can't donate to you. So thank you for that.
What I'm hearing is I think it would be good for us to have a list to provide for them if they don't have any ideas. I don't know if that's what I'm hearing from council.
As you look down the list, though, these are some great causes that are being supported. Many are youth-directed organizations, which I know none of us will
Say no.
disagree with that. But, maybe we could develop a pre-qualified, I don't know, list or something, but it is to the discretion of the dispensary as to who they want to support, and some organizations get huge support, like the Boys and Girls Club. It's got almost $500,000 in support, which good for them. They're out there.
They are contributing to.
Right. But again, there's. I think we just want to make sure that all the needs are being met, not just some of the needs. But, anyways.
So I'm mixed on this. I think there needs to be better accountability, that it's actually an organization that's contributing to something related to Hueneme, that it is a legit organization, because I've never heard of the Hueneme Beach Community Police Initiative. I don't even know that we have a community police, but maybe I'm wrong. But also, we shouldn't tell them who they want to contribute to, but it should still fall within the lines of, has to be connected to Hueneme in some way or another. So it would be nice to be able to vet them a little better and find out if they are. And did I hear Ms. Acero saying that documentation was going to be coming in to give more information on the nonprofits and what they're doing with the money, or?
No, the documentation that we're requesting is just really proof of the donation. So cancel check or any sort of support that supports that they donated that amount to the organization. Most of it is canceled checks. They're sending us, and a lot of times they send us like the receipt that they get from the nonprofit, thanking them for the donation. So that type of support is what we're requesting.
Okay, thank you.
Is there, who approves it ultimately? Does city staff approve and say, hey, green light, yes, this has nexus with our city, or?
At this point, that is the plan, yes. That's why we asked for that documentation. One of the, going back to Councilmember McQueen LeJean's idea, though, putting in a simple line item in our monthly form, I think will go a long way to helping us vet that at the monthly stage, let alone at the year-end audit stage.
Because I imagine something like, say, organizations going to the dispensaries and filling out a form and saying, hey, we would like this much money. This is how it's connected to the city. This is what we're gonna do with the money. We don't have some sort of process like that right now, right?
Correct, because again, we don't control that particular aspect of it. Again, it's the dispensaries are allowed to donate to whatever organizations they want. So we don't have any part of that interaction. We just get the receipts that come in afterwards, verifying that interaction took place.
Because I think it'd be nice to have some sort of system, so for people to come out, fill out a form, present it to them. The dispensary can then still choose to donate or not, but something like that.
Yeah, I'm thinking back to there was a newspaper article, $32,000 to the homeless beds, remember? We bought homeless shelter beds, and I don't see it in this accounting of it. I thought it was 32,000, but anyways, I think we need to be more diligent in making sure that, number one, we do it on an annual basis. And I really like the idea of trying to work with the dispensaries, and could we suggest, hey, what if we had a nomination process for you all? That you could come in and look at all the different opportunities, or we just leave it up to them entirely?
I think more would need to be known about the nomination process. The end result would be that the dispensary gets to disregard anything that council suggests, if they so choose, without repercussion. From a legal perspective, attorneys always see the worst case scenario, and that's a retaliation claim of some sort.
So I'm not suggesting that council says like, hey, these are the things that we want, but I'm suggesting like, say, these nonprofits and organizations come to the city, fill out a form, the city approves them, and then puts them out. And then if any of the dispensaries would want to take on those donations, they can say, okay, I want to donate to the X group. And they can also direct their organizations that they want to donate to and say, hey, go to the city, fill out the form, and then they get approved by the city staff saying, hey, just making sure like it's approved, before they actually do the donations. Is that something that you can see in best case scenario, or?
Well, it is, but the problem always arises in that, let's say a nonprofit exists that the city does not support, and I want to donate to it. But therein lies the First Amendment problem.
Yeah, but the other part is when a member, let's say the police chief comes in and says, hey, dispensary A, B, and C, can you support this? Or, the past president of REACH comes in and says, hey, can you support this? So we kind of have.
I would agree there should be no government involvement.
Yeah, and I think that's the discussion that we're having here, is how can we better tune the community development agreement without breaking any laws or rules, but also get the buy-in of the dispensaries, because I'm sure they would, I don't know, I've never asked them like, hey, how do you track, or how do you determine who you're going to donate to?
Yeah, real quick, I'm gonna make a motion that staff take a look at some of the options that we can change the process so that maybe we can approve.
I think that would be more appropriate at the end of the meeting, because this specific agenda item doesn't contemplate such a motion.
Okay.
So the action on this item is to receive and file, correct? Okay, so I'll make a motion to receive and refile.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously.
All right, let's move on to item number 8, status update on city council requests. What did you want to mention?
Thank you,
Councilmember Thomas?
again. So how, are these, they're listed by date, the date they were requested, and how do we assign a priority to it? In other words, I haven't even looked yet, but dog park. That's something that has come up for 4 years now, and now we're working with our Bubbling Springs Park update. Yeah, so there's several items here that need to come up on a agenda. And how do we determine, should we keep making agenda item requests and adding to this list, or should we clear this list? I'm just trying to understand how we're gonna move forward efficiently.
Well, so first of all, let me begin by saying that we had nearly 300 requests, and we're down to about 28. Some of them are underway right now. I'm not going to say that we're going to stop you from adding to the list. I mean, if something comes up, we can do that. The way it's prioritized really is based on resources more than anything. For instance, I'm looking at a couple items that had been landscape based, but now that we're working on the landscape updates, which are moving along, once those are completed, we can go ahead and finish this, but we're not sure exactly when those are going to be completed, so it's hard to assign a specific end date yet for those. Other ones have been moved around a little bit because of the Bubbling Springs project, which due to its time frame and the amount of money that's involved with that, we want to make sure that that project takes priority. So we have had to bump a couple of things. And I know I've mentioned that to a few of you in the past, but that doesn't mean that they're not going to be worked on. A couple other items, for instance, we were able to complete this week alone. You received a couple memos. So we try to get them done as quickly as possible, but it does take a little bit of research once in a while, or again, there may be something else that's delaying it. For instance, like I said, the landscape guidelines, and so it is hard to nail them down with specific time frames, which is why they're not necessarily in any kind of order of priority right now, because of all of the nuances that are involved with each one.
I just wanted to raise the one item that I requested regarding Caltrans signage. I had started working on that and talking to Jackie Irwin's office at the time and Congressman Brownlee's office. And when I mentioned it to our former city manager, he agreed to take it on. And now I'm finding that this is what happened, that attempts to contact Caltrans have been unsuccessful. So I don't want to leave it at that. I want to go ahead. I got the sense that he was going to take that on and follow through with it. I mean, what I'd like to do is continue my conversations with our state and federal elected officials to get some movement in that area. So, I mean, just if you call and you can't get through to Caltrans, then, you've got to try another way. So I'd like to pursue that if that's okay.
Okay. Sounds
Okay.
Sounds like
Thank you.
like I said, again, these are fluid, and they're subject to help if possible.
Right.
In some cases, because again, resources are limited, and if you do know of, for instance, I didn't know that was sitting on somebody's desk. So, and we did our interim public works director. So, it's good to know. And yes, we can certainly take those changes into advice based.
Yeah, and then I'm happy to meet with Mr. Watkins about that as well. Bring him up to date.
Is that how we do things, though? Council member meets with the public works director? I mean, so I bring that up because, I've talked about sand management from day one. And we as a council have never really had a conversation about how do we better sand manage the beach. And, I see things down there that frustrate me. I see light poles where the sand is gone, and then I see a pile of sand over here, and I realize that we don't have the proper equipment. And it's the most frustrating thing about being on council is that the five of us can't get together and talk about things that we want to fix. So then we motion and we get it on a list for an agenda, and then it kind of sits there for a while. And, you know, how do we move? How do we move forward? You know, how do we address the concerns that we heard earlier at where these accidents are helping? And so, you know, it's a little frustrating. I think we all understand that, but as I go down this list, you know, I want to have a conversation on every item on this list. I think we should have a conversation as a council, but, you know, we have constraints. So this is on the consent agenda. I don't know what we're just going to receive and file this, but what I would like to suggest is that each and every one of us go down this list and try to, you know, decide for ourselves what's a priority. I mean, and maybe we could send in additional ideas, but until the five of us have a public discussion about any one of these items, I don't think we're meeting the needs of why we're here. We're the community representatives. We're the five people that get to discuss how to make things better. And everything on this list is about making things better. And so I'll just leave it at that.
Councilmember?
Yeah, I first want to say thank you to our deputy city manager for putting this list together, right? Says we had 274 items and we're down to 28. So while there's a lot of work to do, I think having this list is part of the battle. I think most of us were saying, what's on the list? What's on the list? So now we have a list, and now we can hold people accountable for the things that are on the list. So thank you so much for giving us the list, and we're going to work through the list. And so just want to say that and say thank you for what you all done to this point, but there's still more work to do. So we'll keep you honest about that.
I'd like to make a motion to receive and file the information.
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously.
All right, let's move on. There aren't any public hearings today, but we do have a couple of business items. Business item number 11, initiation of economic development planning. Will staff please present the report?
Sure, and I believe there's a PowerPoint presentation with this as well. It's going to be set up. But yes, thank you, Mayor and members of the council. I see Steve Kinney coming up to the podium there. So we've already met with all five of you individually, just kind of discuss this a little bit and give you a heads up on where we are. But as we are well aware, quite a few of you have mentioned concerns and also just requests and needs for additional economic development assistance for our businesses here in the city. And right now, without having a Chamber of Commerce, or at least a functioning one, we do have that detriment working against our business community as well. Therefore, Mr. Kinney, our economic development consultant, and I have been working on a plan that hatched a little while ago and just kind of sat dormant on the previous city manager's desk, but we are moving it forward here at this point. And we're asking for consideration of several items this evening, and to fund all of these would be using ARPA funds. As you will recall, we had originally, a couple of years ago when we were ferreting out what to do with the ARPA funds, we had allocated $240,000 to assist the businesses having COVID-related issues at the time, particularly with regard to their business license renewals. And since that never actually came to fruition, we are requesting to repurpose about $210,000 of those $240,000 for these programs here this evening. Keep in mind that this would be if every business wanted to take advantage of this, and we have 453 businesses here in the city, so that's worst case scenario. And now, of course, with your assistance here, as we discussed earlier, we're actually lowering that a little bit further as far as costs. But in any event, I'm going to turn this over to Mr. Kinney to explain in more detail the proposal this evening. Thank you.
Can I ask a question? So the proposal, are we on item number 9? 11, okay. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Stewart, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, and council members. May I say what a pleasure it is to be up here tonight talking about an economic development issue. Happy to present the result of some work that's taken place over the last couple of months in trying to bring economic development to the forefront in our awareness and consciousness and discussion. As you know, the general plan, which was adopted recently, has an economic development element in it. So it recognizes the importance of economic development in the overall maturing and growth of a community. But the element didn't dive deeply into how to accomplish effective, constructive economic development, just that it was a good thing. So Mr. Stewart and I have been working on ways to try and flesh that out, to try and bring some understanding to what the city's challenges are in the economic development arena, and then propose ways in which those challenges can be met, and we can move forward toward the goal of a prosperous community for everyone here. So I'd like to tonight go over a few of the items that are making up this whole package. We'd like to talk about the sector survey that we are undertaking now, and that simply means looking at the economy in the traditional way of each of the 4 principal sectors that compose economic activity here in the city. That would be industrial, retail and restaurants, office and technology, and tourism and hospitality. So there's a distinct presence of each of those sectors, some stronger than others, but we want to look at each of those in a systematic way and understand the challenges for each of them, underscore the strengths, and then build strategies that will affect each of them individually. And then in addition to that, there are a couple of strategies in play that will broadly affect all the areas of the economy. One of those is the broadband master plan, which you authorized last fall and which is underway now and approaching conclusion, because that certainly is going to affect everyone in the community for the better once we can make the investments to improve internet service for residents and businesses both. So that's one. The second one is the idea of identifying someone on the city staff to be recognized and labeled, if you will, as the business advocate, the in-house business advocate for the city, so that there is a person who's, I don't know whether it's a part-time or full-time function, but a good part of their responsibility is to serve as the clearinghouse and as the point of contact for anyone in the community who has a business issue and needs help with the city. So that person's function is simply to make sure that that gets followed up on, get the right person or persons involved towards the solution of whatever that business issue might be. Next, we want to talk about doing a business survey. As part of the sort of research stage of where we are in the economic development planning process, we want to conduct a business survey, and we want to do that with potentially every business in the city. Because of our business license email roster, we have the ability to get in touch with every business in the city. So we can potentially get some information back from every one of the 450 businesses that are in our city. And we'd like to kind of test their consciousness with respect to how their own business is doing, number one. Number two, how they view the city services that they receive or would like to receive. So it's a little bit of feedback just for us internally. And then looking ahead into the future, what are their concerns? What are their priorities? And in that, we want to touch specifically on the Chamber of Commerce issue, which we'll get to next. So we can reach out to 450 businesses. The challenge is, how do we get any responses? It's tough to get people to respond to surveys no matter what the issue. And small businesses, they've got plenty of other things to do with their time than respond to surveys. So we thought it was worthwhile and probably a good idea to incentivize them in some fashion. And the most effective incentive we felt was simply to offer a credit on their business license fee for the coming year. And this would be, in this case, up to $100 toward their business license, or if it's less than that, just the full amount, for everyone who fully completes a survey and sends it back into the city. So with that mechanism, hopefully we can boost the response rate and just get a richer response and understand better what's going on in the heads of businesses around our city. And that the timetable on that is to get the responses back into the city from the survey over the next couple of months, and then be able to pay the credit or the rebate to the businesses by the middle of August. So next, the Chamber of Commerce. Chamber is an important entity in the community. We've seen it be useful here in Port Hueneme in the past. Many cities rely heavily upon a thriving, active chamber to sort of share the load in what's needed to help all the businesses in the community thrive. That's not the case now. COVID really kind of put the death knell on our local chambers activities, so that there is effectively no chamber now. We think it's important for the city to try and spark the rejuvenation of a chamber or another organization to start one from scratch. But it's worthwhile for the chamber, for the city to invest time, effort, and in this case, money as well, to try and spark a startup effectively of that operation. And then once it's in place, we've got another entity that's sort of sharing the load and working in the same direction towards supporting local businesses. So the way we propose to do this is to issue a request for proposals. And we would be essentially asking for a startup business plan for a group that would want to create a chamber. The business plan needs to be a full and complete plan that will demonstrate the viability of this organization over a 3 to 5 year period. And we'll need to show that all the issues that are important in making a successful chamber have been thought through in advance, and that this group has the plan in place to make that chamber successful, and by doing so, to attract the members needed to support that chamber. That's a lot of work for somebody to undertake. And so for that reason, we want to offer an incentive for a group to take on the challenge of creating a business plan that will be successful. And we want to offer that incentive in a way that will allow them to actually operate if they kind of win the RFP. And the mechanism there, again, is funding. In this case, we'd propose to offer $120,000 toward the chamber's operating cost over its first year of operation. That's important because it's the only startup money that would be available to a from-scratch organization like that. They can't go to a bank and get a loan against something that is so insecure, if you will, as a startup group that relies on attracting membership. So the city needs to act in that role and offer the startup funding so that the chamber would, I think most importantly, have the certainty of funding available so that they could attract a professional staff member to run the organization. That alone is key to a successful business plan. So that money needs to be in place. It would be for the first year. It would be for the first year only. And the reason for needing a 3 to 5 year business plan is for the city to be assured that the organization has thought through what they're going to do after the city money runs out in year one, and they are really left standing on their own 2 feet. So that is one of the ways in which the city can kickstart the new existence of a chamber. The other way would be for the city to offer a subsidy of any business who wants to join the chamber in that first year to get half of the membership dues paid by the city. It's an obvious incentive to the business itself to kind of take a chance on what a membership would provide in this new chamber. It's also a benefit to the chamber because it accelerates the rate at which memberships will be secured and help set the wheels in motion for an ongoing stability there into year 2 and year 3. So those are the reasons why we would propose to offer this financial support toward the creation of an organization that can be a very important partner for us in the economic development future. So what we would propose to bring back to you over the next couple of months are a few things: the results of the business survey. Secondly, the results of the RFP for this Chamber of Commerce creation. And if there's a strong candidate there, we would also bring back to you a contract so that we could get that candle lit and get that project underway. And then more broadly, kind of progress on our various areas of research that we're doing now, including a retail study and the other things that I mentioned before. And finally, how is it all paid for? As Mr. Stewart mentioned, we're looking to the ARPA pool of funds, and the actual costs are enumerated on the slide there for the rebates for the business license credit and for the 2 areas of subsidy for the chamber. It all adds up to, we believe, around $210,000. So the funds are available if it's your pleasure to reallocate them to this purpose in pursuit of what we're trying to achieve. So that's an overview of how we want to launch our economic development activities this year, and happy to entertain your questions or final comments from Mr. Stewart.
Yeah, Councilmember Hernandez.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Kinney, for your presentation, and thank you, Mr. Stewart, for the both of you for your work on this. When I, during council meetings, asked for a economic development plan, I guess maybe what I meant was a strategy, a real strategy that's comprehensive, that looks at all aspects of our economic development landscape, jobs, not just businesses, but looks at everything, every possible avenue that we could exercise in creating a robust economy here for Port Hueneme businesses and for our residents. So while these are all great ideas and maybe a way to spend our ARPA money, I was really hoping that we were going to look at contracting out with a company to do that strategic plan for us, so it's not us trying to divine our own problem. We've got an outside professional company coming in and looking at Hueneme and doing the analysis and coming back to us and saying, this is where your strengths are, your weaknesses, your opportunities, and your threats, for example. You know, I look back at the name change, and to me, it was kind of, that whole proposal should have been part of a comprehensive economic development plan. And I'm feeling like these recommendations are kind of along the same line, that they're piecemeal and they're just components of what should be a greater plan. So I'm a little concerned and a little disappointed that, because I thought when we had our discussion, there was going to be a recommendation to contract out for an economic development plan, and I don't see that here. What I see is another piecemeal approach to economic development for a community, which I'm not sure that I can support.
Are there any other questions?
Yes, Mayor, thank you. I agree with Councilmember Hernandez wholeheartedly. And you know, at first when we met and I thought about what you're proposing, I thought, okay, yeah. But I think it's kind of like the cart before the horse type thing. Like, in order to have a thriving chamber, you have to have a thriving business environment. And I'm not sure we have that right now, but I do know that the business environment seems to be healthy and people are busy and you know, there's no parking in the Ralph Shopping Center. But then I think about, we just passed the EPS ban. What are we doing to help the restaurants deal with that? Because that's a big issue. It's a big issue and it's gonna hurt businesses. And I would hope that we could reach out to all the restaurants in Hueneme and work with them to partner with them to, hey, you know, what can we do to help you here? Because, you know, believe me, I'm for the ban because styrofoam's a mess out there on the beach and our beach is our asset and it's ugly and it's the environment, marine life, you know, but we need to be better at executing being friendly city by the sea. And I just don't have confidence in putting all our eggs in a basket for a, you know, chamber of commerce. And you're right, the chamber failed us during COVID. I mean, that was the time when we needed the chamber to step up, and the chamber went in lockdown mode. And so I feel like we need, like Councilmember Hernandez has said, I think we need a fresh set of eyes. I think we need to hear other ideas. I think you've done a really good job in helping us get our dispensaries up and going, but that was 6 years ago. And here we are now, you know, trying to rehabilitate an organization that kind of failed us.
Okay. Are there any questions? I did have a question. So just so that it's on the record, so you had already talked to the Oxnard and Camarillo Chamber and they don't really want to take us on as a city?
I think that's a fair statement. Although I should flesh that out a little bit more. I mean, Nancy Lindholm is the CEO of the now combined Oxnard and Camarillo Chamber of Commerce. They're called the West Ventura County Business Alliance, I think they are. And I talked with her about taking on the role of serving Port Hueneme as well. In the course of that conversation, it became pretty clear that if she were to be able to do that successfully, she would have to have somebody on her staff that she could identify as being a Port Hueneme person, period. Or else she didn't think she'd be able to attract interest from Port Hueneme businesses who might otherwise kind of feel lost in the much bigger scheme of Oxnard and Camarillo. And for her to take on the expense of hiring that person dedicated to Hueneme, she didn't see the revenue stream coming out of the Hueneme business community to make that pencil out as strictly a business decision for her. Now, that doesn't preclude any business in Port Hueneme who wants to join that group. I mean, of course they can. But in terms of trying to designate that organization as Port Hueneme's chamber, that's where she drew back from being willing to to commit to that.
Would they be able to apply to that $120,000?
If they want to submit a proposal with a business plan and, all that's included in the RFP, sure.
Question?
I just wanted to add that if every business in Wainimi joined and paid $150 a year, that's $63,000. And from what I'm hearing, I don't think that's enough to sustain a vibrant chamber.
Okay. Councilmember Hernandez?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask, usually when you're developing solutions for economic development, you go out to stakeholders and you kind of get your information from them on what they believe the needs of our community are. What stakeholders did you talk to in this process? How did we come up with these ideas to even bring back the chamber? How do we know that's a winning solution? Who did you talk to?
Well, just various people in the community who expressed interest in having a chamber. There was no scientific survey done at the time, although that's kind of the purpose of the survey that we want to launch right now, is to test the waters a little bit there on interest in a chamber, as well as some of the other questions that we ask. But that's a more widespread inquiry to businesses about their interest in the chamber. But a number of these things are intended to be the first steps that create a database, that create more information about the business community. In fact, toward your earlier point, I think all of this is pointed toward us being in a position to be able to contract with an economic development firm to create the economic development plan. I think we're proposing to do here a number of steps that organization would want to do anyhow. We're just kind of getting started now in that direction, particularly with the survey. The chamber's kind of a special case just because of what it is right now. But our other work is intended just to build more of an information base to be able to pass along to a professional firm.
Thank you.
Okay, are there any more questions? All right, let's move on to public comments. Are there any public comments regarding this item?
We do have a written public comment from Ricardo Holden. It appears that these ARPA funds are bouncing from one project to another, and the indecision of use is delaying projects that were already approved for use of the ARPA funds. The Bubbling Springs Parks and Beach Playground projects are approved to utilize the ARPA funds. Now a proposal asking for reprogramming of these funds could further delay these existing projects. Watching the city council meetings, I see a lot of time and energy expended on agenda items that go back and forth repeatedly without much progress being made. For instance, we've had 3 city council meetings with the beach festival on the agenda, and it is still yet to be approved. What is happening with the other requests for agenda items? When will the swings that were used daily by everyone be replaced at the beach as they were replaced by volleyball courts that are rarely used? Will the swings replacement ever be completed, or will this project get lost in the shuffle of agenda items that are revisited multiple times? Reprogramming the ARPA funds appears to be taking steps backwards and overlooks existing requests for agenda items. As for the Chamber of Commerce, maybe the business licensing fees solely should fund the Chamber of Commerce subsidy. Businesses are the primary benefactor of the Chamber of Commerce, so utilizing the business licensing fees seems to make the most sense. Let's not further delay approved projects by reprogramming funds. A beach playground is on hold, although last summer the City Council discussed having the project approved by the end of 2022. I live close to Port Hueneme Beach, and when my boys were young, we would drive them to Oxnard Beach Park to use that playground because it's a great playground. We even hosted a birthday party at Oxnard Beach Park because of the excellent playground. Our city would benefit from having a nice playground similar to the one at Oxnard Beach Park, as it will bring families to the beach paying parking fees and potentially visiting local Hueneme businesses. possibly helping businesses better than a Chamber of Commerce would. I am a business owner in Port Hueneme, and it would be nice to see some of my business licensing fees be utilized supporting our local businesses. We shouldn't have to compromise existing projects, reprogramming ARPA funds while the city collects almost $500,000 in business licensing fees yearly. Ricardo Holden. And that concludes public comment.
All right, so the recommendation is to receive a report on the planning process to be undertaken in preparation for the development of a citywide economic development plan. Are there any motions today? I was gonna suggest that we make a motion if nobody's interested in approving this, that maybe we move it to another meeting and discuss how we can reallocate that money. I know Councilmember Hernandez had some ideas. I know it sounds like you're not set on this. I didn't hear from Mayor Pro Tem Perez. Okay.
I like Councilmember Hernandez's idea. I think it's the way forward, but at the same time, I think we need to help our businesses now with whatever we can do, and particularly the EPS ban. Like, that's something that I think we approved. We're gonna go out and outreach, and I don't see that we're doing that. And so I think we need to have a different approach.
If I could just kind of respond to that, thank you, Councilman Gama. But again, we don't know that that's such a problem with our businesses. The businesses, from what I understand, are doing fine, but how do we really know that they're having problems? And that's where the survey might come in handy. But for us to do a survey in-house, I'm not sure that we're going to capture all the communities out there that need to be captured, like the nonprofits, like the clergy, like people who just visit Port Hueneme. I think we have to look much broader when it comes to developing an economic development plan for our community. I think we need to start by bringing together a group of stakeholders and walking them through the process so that we don't leave anything out. I think during our meeting, we talked about art economy, how art in our community, public art, can help develop our economy. That should be part of our economic development plan. So
We should have art all the time.
Art all the time, everywhere.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Yes, so I'm mixed on this. I am obviously in favor of a chamber. I think a chamber will do a community good. I've seen really well-ran chambers be the foundation for businesses, especially during crisis. I've seen many communities that the only reason why they survived was because they had a well-ran chamber of commerce there to support their businesses. But I don't know if this is the first step that we need to take when creating a economic development plan. It is a step that needs to happen. I just don't know where that fits in. And I know that we need to do something to invigorate businesses in our community. I just don't know how that is because I'm not a business, planning professional. I think that needs to be, maybe Councilmember Hernandez suggested, somebody that does that for a living and looks at communities and devises stuff like that. Maybe we need to look at someone and have them come in and do an assessment or an audit on our business community and what we need to do in order to improve that. I know it needs to be improved, and I'm open to whatever that is and however that best way to do that. I just don't know what that is.
Yeah, and I can appreciate that when you put together a strategic economic development plan, any plan, it's going to take some time to create, and it's a process, and it could take a couple of years before we get a final deliverable. So maybe if we look at these as short-term goals, maybe the low-hanging fruit, address the EPS issue, then yes, we could do that. But to call this a plan, I'm just a little concerned. I mean, I think there's steps toward economic development. Maybe they're the easier, low-hanging fruit kinds of projects that we can do. But the question I have is, do we have a deadline for spending that ARPA money? Is that why we're trying to get these projects off the ground?
There is a deadline. It's not immediate, but it is
What is it?
2026 for everything to be expended, I think.
Yeah, hi, it's Lupe. We have to have it obligated by December 31st, 2024, and it has to be spent by December 31st, 2026. We have a little bit of time.
The other comment I wanted to make, Councilmember Hernandez, was, I mean, I think the title of this agenda item, if I remember right, I don't have it in front of me, is the initiation of an economic development planning process, right? And,
It just says initiation of economic development planning,
okay,
but there's no recommendation to develop a plan. There's recommendations to assist the businesses with their license fees, request for proposal for the chamber, and approve ARPA funding.
right.
I mean,
I'm gonna make a motion for staff to go back and come up with maybe some more ideas on how we can use the $240,000, maybe have a couple more different ideas. I had a couple of different ideas. I think one of the problems with the businesses is directing traffic to our city. And so I thought, I'm like, our biggest asset's the beach. And so I thought, okay, I've always thought about having something like what Ventura Beach has, like their sign, Ventura Beach. And so having people want to go there and take photos on our pier, or just like how I had mentioned before, like in Mexico, how they have the big words, the big letters, and people want to take the photos in front of those big letters. So I thought that would be something that we could invest in to attract people to our beach and stay on this side of our city. And so that's something I wanted to bring up today, but I don't know if that's a.
I will second your motion. I think we need we need to hear from another set of eyes perhaps. And I think that's in line with what we discussed tonight, so, yeah. Can you restate the motion? Because I know that you started it and then you.
My motion was to redirect staff to go back and come up with some more ideas on how we can best use that money to support the businesses in our city.
could you amend that so that it contains a provision for the development of a strategic economic development plan?
Yes, and I can amend my motion so it includes your request.
Still offer a second.
Well, I'm suggesting we don't approve anything right now. I think we need to look at and have more ideas on how we can improve the businesses in our cities. It sounds like we're not ready to make that jump to try to get a chamber to come into our city. And maybe we do need someone to come in and assess our city and give us another plan on what we should be doing.
If I may, Mayor. What I don't want us to do is be so vague that we don't do anything. So can it be more clear? Do you have something you can say that's more clear, that can actually lead to an action? I'm a little confused as to, are we saying that we're going to pause and we're going to call someone in to do an assessment? That's an action. You know what I'm saying? That's an action. So
Well, we can still have more motions. I struggled a lot, just so you guys know, I
Okay.
struggled a lot with this weekend, just thinking, okay, what's the best thing that we can do for our businesses?
Okay.
You know, so I struggled a lot, but I also agree with Mayor Pro Tem and some of the other council members. I'm not sure if this is the right plan. So,
okay.
I'm just saying, I'm not agreeing with this at this moment in time.
If the motion that I provided the second on passes, can we, council members, provide suggestions? I think Councilmember Hernandez has a really good suggestion. It's like, hey, let's get a fresh set of eyes. Let's develop a community, a strategic plan for community, right? It's not added to the motion?
I think I asked him to amend his motion.
But I think we as a council need to throw ideas into the hopper, like, right?
Well, yeah, except we end up again looking at this on a piecemeal basis. If we agree that we want to hit those low-hanging fruits and use the ARPA funds to do that, then we can approve what's on here. But with the provision that they also come back with a plan with money allocated to hire somebody to come in and do that economic development plan for us.
If I may, council, one of the issues that we're kind of butting up against is that these are federal funds. They're earmarked. They can only be used for certain purposes. Strategic planning, I do not believe, is one of them.
Do we know
I
that
would
for
say,
sure?
I don't know that for sure, but I do not believe that that would be a valid use for these ARPA funds.
It's recovery, it's economic recovery. I would
The-
argue it
there
is.
the ARPA final rule is fairly specific on economic recovery funds as to how they have to be used. We would need to review it further. I would recommend a motion to have staff evaluate the ARPA rule and bring that back so that council can have that conversation, mindful of how these funds have to be spent.
Okay.
Motion for staff to bring back, to investigate the ARPA rule and bring back recommendations for council.
Second.
Are we allowed to make, say another motion if I originally made one?
Motion all night.
We have to,
I would have to withdraw.
Has that motion been seconded?
Yeah.
yeah.
So then we would have to, that motion has to be voted on unless the most recent motion made by Mayor Pro Tem Perez passes, then that motion fails.
Okay. Well, then let's take a vote on the first one or let's actually take a vote on the second.
Wait.
We take a vote on the most recent motion.
Yes.
made.
Okay, on the second one.
Can we have it read back, please?
So that is going to be the one by Mayor Pro Tem Perez for the ARPA rule. So Mayor Pro Tem Perez.
Yes.
Councilmember McQueen Lejeune.
Yes.
Councilmember Gama.
Yes.
Councilmember Hernandez.
Yes.
Mayor Martinez.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Nice. Let's move on to a really big one, important one. Number 12, library grant match. Will staff please present the report?
Yes, and good evening again. This is a request. Well, let me back up first of all. Councilmember Hernandez and I had a meeting a few weeks ago with our city librarian and some of the county library staff. They're sitting out there. That's why I'm looking at most of them. And our county librarian is on Zoom here. And we had a discussion about several items, but one of the items that came up, and it's actually been on our project list as well, is to potentially hear about and offer support for a grant that the county library would be applying for through the state for improvements at our own Rady Pruder Library branch here in the city. And so Ms. Schramm came back with a proposal. It's roughly about $2.3 million that she's applying for specifically for our library, and they would be for items that pertain to the interior of the library itself with minimal exterior, such as ADA improvements that would be allowed for the grant. But what they're looking for are upgrades to functionality, the safety, energy efficiency, and whatnot. And part of the grant requirement, though, is that 50% of it be matched. And so the library had asked for the city as well as the county to provide that match. And our portion of that would be $385,000. And so we evaluated that, and after meeting with the finance director, determined that we actually do have that money in what we call the general fund, an assigned fund balance, which is kind of like, I don't want to say a rainy day fund, but it does have several $1 million in it, and it's to be used for projects such as this that come up. And it would have no bearing on the general fund itself or any of the projects or obligations that are in the general fund that are assigned. And we'll have a bigger discussion of that when we talk about the budget next, at our next meeting and our workshop. But in any event, so we do have the $385,000 available to assist the library. And if the council this evening wishes to allow the county to basically to allow us to match the county's request, the county librarian will ask for 2 letters of support, one from the mayor and one from myself. We'll submit those, and then the library will be able to apply for the grant immediately because it's due on May 18th. And then just to know, for your edification, subsequent to the monies actually being awarded, they don't have to be awarded immediately. We would ask for an agreement with the library to make sure that the monies that we are providing to them are specifically spent for this particular project, and that way our auditors can also follow that trail when it comes audit time. So it would be safety for ourselves. So the recommendation here is for the library, for the city to match the library's grant request with that $385,000.
May I,
Questions?
yes. My concern with the library is the parking lot, and I don't see that that's gonna be addressed here. So because it's unsafe, there's tripping hazards, how do we move that up on our priority list to take care of the parking lot?
Well, first of all, the parking lot is an exterior improvement so that it's not subject to this grant.
Right.
We did ask if it could, one of the, like an in-kind match. Unfortunately, the grant only requires cash.
No, I'm not talking about the
so-
grant. I'm trying to understand whose responsibility is it to fix the?
Yeah, that's the subject of this agenda item. So,
It's in the capital improvement plan, is it not?
so
I believe it is,
Okay.
yes. And again, as far as in our interim public works director can come up here and discuss that. But I also do want to make sure that, again, we're aware that when we're talking about the CIP program in general, we still have the Bubbling Springs project, which is taking priority and it's taking up most of our resources. But Mark,
Yeah,
if you
so
want to add
just
anything
very
to
quickly on that, that parking lot was brought to our attention. It was included in the proposed budget for this next year. So that will be before council, I believe, in May or June of this year for approval, and funding for the library parking lot is included, although it hasn't been approved. So that would be available July 1st, and that will be a Public Works Department responsibility, not facilities. So the Bubbling Springs project would not necessarily keep that from moving forward.
Thank you, and I just bring it up because if I wholeheartedly support this grant, but at the same time, we have to take care of the outside, and it hasn't been taken care of, and so.
okay. Are there any public comments regarding this item?
No public comments.
All right, the recommendation is to, let's see, is to authorize the interim city manager to execute an agreement approved as to the form by the city attorney with the Ventura County Library System and authorized contribution of $385,000 for the city's portion of a match for a grant for improvements to the Ray D. Pruder Library, and provide letters of support for the application from the mayor and interim city manager. May I have a motion and a second?
Move to approve.
Second?
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Yeah.
Hearing none, motion passes unanimously.
Yay.
Okay.
Thank you for showing up and sitting through
And
our
waiting
other
patiently.
discussion. It's good news now, right? Now we just got to get the money.
Yeah, and I just want to recognize Timothy. I really am so excited to see him in our city and the wonderful things he's going to bring to the library, so.
I have one request. Can you please not touch the mural?
What?
The mural inside the library.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
All right, number 13, Defense Communities Infrastructure Pilot DCIP Program Grant. Will staff please present the report?
Thank you, Mayor Martinez. Members of the council, we'll be brief. This item came about, Public Works staff has been reaching out to various consultants, and will be coming back to the council soon with a list of on-call consultants so that we have gone through the RP process, done the interviews, selected consultants, and be prepared to go. As part of that process, we were made aware of this grant that is available and is due by the end of June. This grant is a Department of Defense grant. And it's only available to communities that have a high service level with an adjacent military compound. So it does make it unique and situates the city of Port Hueneme in a unique position to apply for this grant. We were made aware of this through M&S Engineers, which is one of the engineering firms we've talked to provide some on-call and consulting support services. The grant funding for this does have a 30% match. The estimated construction contract cost at this point is $5 million. And the project we'd be submitting is what we've been referring to as the cross-based pipeline, but basically a major pipeline that provides looping for our city. The project is currently fully funded through our water fund. And so by obtaining these grant funds, what you do is basically keep your water rates as low as possible for as long as possible, because you're supplanting those funds with grant funds if we're successful. But that also means that that 30% match has already been budgeted. And we're also able to use the design costs that we've already expensed against that. So some of that 30% match is what we've already been using as we've been proceeding with design. If we are successful, we would have to start construction within about 1 year from notice, which would be a year from this September. And if we are successful, we'd be back in front of council with all of the grant details and you'd have to take an official action to accept that grant. So tonight's request is basically twofold. Authorize us to execute a professional services agreement with M&S Engineers and waive the bidding process for that. And then with that, we would go through, fill out the grant application, have that submitted by the end of June. And then if successful, we'd be back in front of you with the details of the grant and asking for your acceptance of that grant.
Are there any questions for staff? No? Are there any public comments regarding this item?
No public comments.
All right, the recommendation is to, number one, the city council authorize the city manager to execute a PSA to M&S Engineers for grant writing services. And number two, approve the exemption for the formal bidding process as outlined in the Port Hueneme Municipal Code, section 2564. May I have a motion and a second?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, does anybody want to have any discussion? Okay, Madam Clerk, can you please take a vote?
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for your presentation. City manager comments and reports. Do you have any comments and reports, Mr. Tony Stewart?
Just a couple of quick ones. Reminder, our camera installation project citywide is starting here in City Hall tomorrow. And another reminder that I'll also put in my weekly update or bi-monthly update to you the coming week is that on June 28th from 10 to 11 a.m. the Coast Guard is going to be landing in parking lot C as they've done in the past couple of years. Basically, this is primarily to meet and greet and answer questions from our junior lifeguard participants, but their families and public are allowed just as long as they keep safe distance, because, like I said, there will be a helicopter sitting in the middle of parking lot C. And just as a reminder, I'll be off this coming Wednesday and Thursday, but I'll be back Friday, of course, here all day tomorrow.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Council member reports and comments. We'll start off with Council member Martha McQueen-Lejean.
Couple announcements. Gold Coast will be having their 50th anniversary. They'll be having an event on July 15th at the facility location, and that is 1901 Auto Center Drive. So they're inviting everyone to come out. They'll be having some nice competitions, driving, maintenance, and customer service skills competition, and the public will be allowed to participate.
I get to drive
The Regional Defense Partnership, RDP 21, we had the guest speaker, Mr. Mark Baylor. Is it Baylor? Baylor from Beacon. So over the last couple of weeks, I think I've had 3 presentations on Beacon, which is great. I did participate in the Sand Summit, which was the 11th, very informative. I think I know a little bit about beach erosion now and everything else, so that's pretty cool. Ventura County Transit, they announced that the X Games will be in Ventura County. at the fairgrounds, July the 21st and the 23rd, which is huge, I'm told. They're going to be trying to use all of the Ventura County methods of transit to transport folks that are going to be coming in for that. And so they're encouraging the use of Ventura County Transit. Additionally, BCTC is celebrating Bike Month, which is this month. Work week is this week, the 15th through the 21st. And Bike to Work Day is May the 19th. So this is about saving our environment, decreasing emissions, and helping folks to be healthy. And so for folks, there is two websites, and that's the goventura.org and the goventura.org/pledge. You can pledge to ride your bike on the 19th, and you can have a chance to win $6 $250 Amazon gift cards. Must be 18 to participate. And that's all that I have. Thank you.
Thank you. It's very nice. I just love seeing all this art here in the chambers, and I hope that we could have art in the chamber all the time. We have some local artists that are doing very well. I think we all know David Coswell. I just love his work, and I love to interact with him. And it's, the arts, recreation, education, arts and culture in Hueneme. That's what it's all about. And, when these tragedies happen in our schools is the reason why this is important. We saw these kids come in here tonight, and it's just such a positive experience for them, and it could change a life. And I'm just really proud of this council and the effort that we've put forth in connecting and engaging with the youth of our community. I'm really proud of our police department with their Police Explorer program. I'm really proud of our lifeguard program, really proud of the Sea Cadet program, even though it's not a city program, but engagement with our schools is super important. You look at that list, we support so many youth-orientated causes, and it just makes me feel like we really are onto something here in this city. So we need more art. We need art in here all the time. The Sand Summit was, again, super informative, and it's the third or fourth one now, right? I mean, well, it's fourth one, huh? And it's really cool to learn, and then to see other people learning, because so many people don't understand the fact that our sand goes down to zero and then we fill it back up, right? And pictures are worth 1,000 words. And the experts that are involved with Beacon working with us, I mean, you couldn't ask for a stronger team. And so we're bringing attention to the plight of Hueneme Beach, and then the fact that it affects down coast from us. And I think the people that understand this now probably is so much greater than it was 4 years ago, right? I mean,
That's the whole point.
yeah, that's the whole point, right? And so I'm really proud of us, really proud of Beacon. I work for two companies in the city of Port Hueneme, just for the record. One, I'm a volunteer custodian, delivery boy, and all this other stuff. The other one is out at the Port of Hueneme for Yara International. So while I don't own a business in the city, I do work part-time volunteer for one that my wife owns. And as we get ready for the summer months to come, again, we have wonderful things going on. We have the Junior Lifeguard Program launching here shortly. The Coast Guard event, if you haven't seen it, it's a great event. Again, engaging with kids is our way to the future, and hopefully we could help our local school districts reduce that awful nastiness of violence in the schools. So just want to thank everybody up here in our community, and interim director, city manager Tony, and let's just keep working for better, guys. Thank you.
Councilmember Gongo, Councilmember Hernandez.
Thank you, Mayor Martinez. I attended the SCAG conference, the regional conference in Palm Desert last week. And one of the great things about attending these, whether it's the California League of Cities, or the League of California Cities, or it's SCAG, is the networking and the ideas that we garner from other communities who are kind of struggling with some of the same issues we do here in Port Hueneme. And so one of the things that I was able to do was to talk directly to a grant administrator who is actually, I believe, here in Ventura County at the Ventura County Office of Education. They were there today and they'll be there tomorrow. All of you should have received an invite. But this grant administrator is the person who's handling the hub grants, I believe, and they're small, mini type grants that help would help a small community like ours address issues like traffic safety, bicycle safety, creating bike lanes, and just overall traffic safety, like what we're experiencing with what's happening off at Surfside or what's happening along Boker and Channel Islands. I've always wanted to do some kind of traffic safety campaign where we can encourage people to slow down and to be respectful of other drivers, and do some outreach with perhaps the car clubs so that they understand, the impact that they have when they violate the rules and they speed and do donuts along Surfside. So these grants are available, and the nice thing about these grants is that we don't have to do the work so much, like the library grant. Somebody else does it for us. And so I'd strongly encourage you, if you haven't already gone out to the Ventura County Office of Education, is to go out there tomorrow. They'll be out there, I believe, most of the morning till 1 o'clock. And you can talk to the representatives there and learn more about these funding opportunities. So I plan on going and bringing back more information about possible projects that we can bring here to Port Hueneme. I also want to remind staff that June is Pride Month, and so I hope that we will be raising the Pride flag in front of City Hall, and I think we have a second one that can go up over at the Public Works Building. I'll be attending the Memorial for Peace Officers on Thursday, as I usually do, and also the Beacon meeting. If you haven't had enough of Beacon, there's a Beacon meeting on Friday. And actually, they'll be voting on our fee increases, which I think they're well worth it. Some minor 1.5% increase. And I understand that the backpack medicine folks were here on May 8th. And I'd like to, well, I'll wait for the request for future agenda items, but I was gonna, I'm just curious how that all went, if we could get some kind of report on that. It doesn't have to be an agenda item. That's all I have.
Councilmember Hernandez. Councilmember, Mayor Pro Tem Perez.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I have no committee meetings that I've attended so far. I have 2 this week, EDC and the ACT Equity Advisory Group. I'll be attending. The most important thing I could talk about for May is mental health awareness has started, and the First Responders Initiative is underway. Every agency in Ventura County, almost every agency in Ventura County, is supporting this and doing pop-ups and getting out mental health awareness to their communities. We will be having one on the 24th and the 27th for Port Hueneme Police Department. I have t-shirts to don't sell, or a suggested donation of $20. And all proceeds go to NAMI Ventura County. The NAMI Walk is October 7th at the Ventura County Government Center. Unfortunately, our beach is busy this year, so we could not have it at our beach. But yes, so if you or someone you know is struggling with a mental health issue or a suicide, then please contact NAMI, or there are many organizations in this Ventura County that will help assist you if you need help. Thank you.
Excuse me, can you repeat the walk, the NAMI walk?
October 7th in Ventura, the Government Center. Oh, and if anybody from Hueneme, including council members, would like to join to help fundraise for the Port Hueneme Police Department team, let me know and we'll get you signed up.
Okay. I just want to report that I've been speaking to Gil Garcia, and he's the one that's been helping me with the sister city. So we've come up with a proposed schedule of activities for here in Hueneme and a budget and specifics. But I hope maybe on our next council meeting, we can have an agenda item for the sister city so that we can get it out going, because I'd really like to involve the community and start getting some members. Other than that, I did meet with Reach, and so we're trying to figure out whether there's anything we can do with the beach festival, but that's about it. Are there any requests for future agenda items?
I don't have a specific request for an agenda item, but I would like some kind of report back on the, how the Backpack Medicine Day went. Thank you.
Can you refresh my memory? Have we already talked about that intersection on Channel Islands and Boker? Because I know we've received emails and I understanding that maybe there's not a lot that we can do, but
Yes, there have been studies done and whatnot, and our former Public Works Director had come up with some ideas to help slow down traffic somewhat in that location. And we can go ahead and have Mr. Watkins bring that back to you for further discussion.
I can help answer that too, since I was the one communicating with some of the residents there who were complaining about the accidents and forwarded the traffic study. And according to our interim Public Works Director, there are some additional measures that they still need to complete on that corner. So that were included in the traffic study.
Okay, good.
And then I forgot, along that lines, can I intervene? I promised the Surfside 2 residents that I would ask this question about something that they're doing in LA County where streetcar racers are taking over intersections. A new ordinance, I believe, has been passed that if they get caught, their cars get confiscated. And so the Surfside residents wants the city to consider something similar to that. So maybe that's something that PD can look into, as whether or not that's feasible or not.
Yeah. That's a good idea. Did you want to make a motion for a request?
I guess request for staff to, police department to, and I guess community development, look into it. You? City attorney? Okay.
So
Okay.
we'll I'll provide a second on that and just to make sure that I understand the motion. The motion is to look at traffic safety, right?
Yes, and the possible confiscation of vehicles who are caught violating laws, taking over intersections, doing donuts, speeding, and street
Right.
racing, those kinds of things.
Yeah, and the other day I went out to McWayne and there was a fatality, and it had to do with, it was a brand new nice car teenagers. So yeah, we definitely need to, anyways, I'll second.
All right, can we get a vote?
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously.
Okay. Are there any more agenda requests? Did you guys want to request developing a process for the cannabis applicants for the 1%? No?
I think there's some wording issues that we need to consider. I mean, I'm basically I learned that there's nothing we could do. It is what it is, and we can make suggestions. Is that basically the?
As I mentioned earlier, yes, there are a couple of suggestions that we can take action on at this point and implement to help us further follow what is being done with regard to that 1% payment when we are analyzing whether or not they're viable organizations serving the city.
Okay, so then that was the motion.
No, I was asking if you guys wanted to. I'm more than happy to.
Do we need to?
Oh, we're planning on it already.
Okay, all right, then we're good. All right, so then I'd like to adjourn the meeting honoring all mothers in the city of Port Hueneme, because without them, none of us would be alive. And I love my mom, I love my grandma, I love all of you guys.
Glad you
know,
were
so-
born.
So the time is now 8:49 p.m. The next regular meeting is scheduled for Monday, June 5th, 2023 at 6:30 p.m. Good night, everyone.
Thank you.
We have
got to keep art